Hello everyone, Josh here with Enemy Impact, bringing us some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the top cards, the most popular used cards in all of Duel Links, and go into a little bit of details about each of the three categories that they fall under, what some cards may surprise you that are in the top, why you feel maybe some are in the bottom but deserve to be more recognized, more used, that maybe are being underutilized. So we're going to go in and talk about all that good stuff. So let's jump in to the list. So let's go to PvP real quick. Got to go to your legend here. All right, so ranked duels popular cards. Now remember, these cards are only being ranked by playability, how many times they've been played, in ranked PvP only. So keep that in mind. This has nothing to do with the current Esperoba event with the Carnival or PvE or anything like that. This is strictly cards being ranked by how many they've been played in ranked PvP. So, as you can see, the top three cards right now is, of course, Treacherous Trap Hole. That's what I call it. It's Treacherous Trap Hole, but this card needs to be banned. I mean, let's be honest. I think it's been unanimously decided by most of the community. It needs to go. It has no place in Duel Links. It needs to go. Second, we have Wall of D, and then third, we have Cosmic Cyclone, and then the list just kind of keeps trickling down. But we're gonna really talk about these in their individual respected categories. So first off, we have monsters. The top three monsters in the game may surprise you. Number one is Sphere Kuriboh, which is kind of a shock for me because I really do not see very much Sphere Kuriboh on the ladder unless I run into a Life Cost Zero deck, which isn't really all that often. The only other deck I can really think of I see it the most is probably in a UA deck, which is also another deck I really do not see that often. Most decks that I'm seeing right now is actually Amazonas, pretty much 90% of my duels, and then a few percent of that is probably vampires. That's really the majority of decks that I'm actually seeing on the ladder. And then you have your occasional Destiny hero that pops up here and there, maybe once every 10, 12 duels, somewhere around in there for me. And then number 30, we have Jinzo. And if you don't really want to count Sphere Kuriboh as a monster because it's really more or less used only as a hand trap, not really as a monster on the field, you could really argue that Amazon Swordswoman and Jinzo are the top 1 and 2 actual monsters actually being played. But, technicalities. But still, Jinzo being in the top 3 for monsters being used right now is absolutely amazing. And of course he's going to be used in the game right now because look at some of the top 10 cards overall, 4 of which Jinzo shuts down. That's Treacherous Trap Hole, that's Wall of D, that's Floodgate, and that's Canadia. He shuts down 4 of the top 10 cards basically used in the entire game, and 2 of which are monsters, and the other 3 are spells. So for the most part, he's really shutting down almost everything that he needs to outside of really just Econ, because he really doesn't need to shut down Cosmic, and he doesn't really need to touch Galaxy. And why would you set Galaxy anyway, unless I guess you're trying to bait somebody? But really, the only card in the top 10 that even gives Jinzo an issue is Econ. That's it. He pretty much handles everything else. So very powerful card Jinzo is. And to round out the top 10, we have a lot of Fur Hires, which is surprising to me as well because I don't really see too many Fur Hires. But what's funny is Fur Hires and Amazonas, I've even seen Destiny Heroes and Vampires and UA, they've all utilized Jinzo in some form or fashion in the past month or so in the meta. I've seen Jinzo pop up in all those. So again, Jinzo's value in stock just keeps rising, especially because it's so good against arguably the top deck in the game, which is Amazonas. Which of course, Swordswoman is another card that I would really like to see get hit as well. I think Swordswoman has been around the game since day one, and she's always been a good burn card. You should call her Amazonas Swords Phoenix instead of Swordswoman because she's just always burning. It's like her flame never extinguishes. She's just always on fire because all the burning she does since the game first dropped. I mean, she can be burned by herself with her own effect. She can burn really good in conjunction with like Parasite Infestation with Lava Golem. That used to be a thing. It still kind of is a thing sometimes. You'll see that deck pop up every once in a while. She used to be really, really disgusting with when we could have 3 times massive morph, and she can also be ran with Spike Shield, which you can also use on your opponent's set defensive position monster or their face-up defensive position monster. It doesn't matter. By attacking into it and doing massive damage. She can run into a set whiz. She gives Furhires issues. Bringing out a big beat stick monster, you got to be scared because Amazon Swordswoman could come out and just kill you, and it's definitely an issue. So I always thought she should have been the card that got hit in Amazon's, not Baby Tiger. But so of course she's going to be up there. But anyways, back to what we're doing, the top 10 here with monsters. So number 4, we have Anki. I mean, of course, Anki's been used pretty consistently for the past three or so months. He's hung around in the meta only really because of the OTK factor. I mean, 2800 beat stick that can be easily summoned thanks to just really a 2-card combo. You need one monster that, fits his requirement, which is very easy in the Destiny Hero deck. They all fit the requirement. And you need mass change, which he also can search out if he destroys a monster. So not only can he attack directly for 1400 or for over 3k with Chalice, he can also destroy a monster, get over your monster with a good attack stat of 2800. He's easy to summon, and the fact that he can search out the other card that he could use to summon himself a second time or even a third time in a single turn, and boom. Even if you're attacking directly, that could still potentially, win the duel for you or, whatever, or put you in a good spot. So, very powerful fusion. It's definitely the best fusion right now in the game by a mile, honestly. For now, anyway, until we get some better ones. We'll see. But, of course, Witch Raider is going to be tacked in the Cyber Style deck, especially if you're running Amazonas. It's another card that can also work. Since it is a vision hero, it's a hero card, and it's dark attribute. It can also be worked in conjunction with Anki as well. So sometimes you'll see that combo, and clearing back row is very clutch. Of course, Amazonas Princess, really right now, the engine to the Amazonas deck. The fact that she's actually played less than Swordswoman tells you that people are trying to end duels quickly by burning your opponent, and she's one of the better cards to set out there to stall with because your opponent is less likely to attack into her because of her burn potential. So very good. And she searches out your onslaught, your willpower, and anything else that you're running that's Amazonas back row. So very, very powerful card. So of course she's going to be in the top. And then we get our first Furhire, which is Wiz. Wiz, the most powerful Furhire right now in Duel Links. Much more powerful than Dinah. And it's funny that Dinah got nerfed to 1. And look, Dinah still is a top 10 used card monster-wise in the game. So, Konami, this should tell you right here, you nerfed the wrong card. Because all people are doing is running 3 copies of Seal. And, of course, that's why Seal is in a top 10 as well. And not Dampa or even Recon. Or even Beat, for that matter. Beats is the search engine. He's the draw power for the deck. And it's surprising that Wiz and Seal and Dinah are all above that. Especially Dinah being as a one of. It's just that's how much value people can get out of Dinah, because Seal can just keep bringing it back. If you, for whatever reason, you lose it to the grave, it could just keep coming back because Seal's effect. So Konami, the card you should have nerfed was Wiz, which if you listen to the player base, they would have told you that Wiz was the problem, not Dinah. Dinah locks are easy to get around. Wiz, not so much. So anyway. So that kind of fills up our top 10. The rest of these, like number 10 would be Beat, of course, 11 and 12, et cetera, et cetera. You kind of get the idea. We kind of just start trickling down. Pretty much this is all the meta. What I'm really shocked about, though, is our first Vampire support card, for the deck anyway, is actually Samurai Skull at 30. We got to go clear down the 30 monsters before we actually run into our first mostly ran monster that's ran in a vampire deck, and vampires are very powerful. They kind of rival Amazonas for like the top spot of the top deck in the game, but they're just so severely overshadowed by the fact that people want to end duels quickly, so they're running Destiny Heroes because they want to go in and win them by turn 2 or 3. They just want to end a duel quick, and the fact that Amazonas is still the most free-to-play friendly top meta deck right now, thanks to the slight nerfs that Furhire received with Dinah and Dampa. So very, very interesting there, that how that kind of came to be. I mean, I can also see the fact that maybe a lot of people are deterred from running them because they don't have a Guzouki, because Guzouki is a UR in a main box, and it's an older box too. So a lot of the newer players may not even have a Guzouki, nor do they feel like they should even try to go in and get it. So maybe that's a kind of a deterrent of why the deck is not being ran as much as it probably should be. So I mean, maybe that's a thing. That might also explains why Guzouki is much lower than all the other ones. Especially when a lot of people, if you're running this, you want to run it at probably a 2 or 3, so you can get at least that or a Skull on your first turn, that we can set up your combos. And the fact that Lava Golem is actually higher than anything from Vampires is very crazy. Very interesting. So, I mean, from this, you can definitely tell the most popular decks right now in Duel Links is definitely Amazonas and Furhire. Like, you can just see that right away. And then it goes Destiny Heroes, and then it goes actually UAs, and then it goes Vampires. So Vampires aren't even one of the top 3 decks being used in Duel Links, even though they're one of the top 2 decks in the game. They're not one of the top used decks in the game. Very interesting. And then you even got the Ubel Phoenix that's even kind of getting a lot of play right now. It's even made it up here in the top 50 and stuff like that. So that's really, really cool. Very interesting. Spell books, though, as you guys can see, they are not top 50. So you can see kind of how spell books have completely, pretty much died off in the game. They're no longer, in my opinion, I just can't consider them meta anymore. I'm kind of really going by the top 50 list to kind of dictate the meta at this point. And if you're going to go so as far as to say the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th deck are considered meta, then I guess you could sneak spellbooks in. But if you're just talking top 4 or 5 decks in the game, then spellbooks just are not going to cut it anymore, as you can clearly see. So very cool. I'm just glad we got some synchros in here. Even Stardust has even made it up to the top 20, 21. So that's cool. So it's good to see that people are actually making good use out of Stardust Dragon. For, you know, at least. All right, so that should hopefully change with Azure Eyes and Stardust, hopefully when the Blue Eyes new structure deck drops. But so we've talked about the monsters now. So if you guys have anything to comment below about what you think about how with the top 3, the top 50 monsters are set up, are you a little bit surprised by some of the placings? Are you shocked as I am that Sphere Karibo is number 1? Because I personally just don't see it that much, but maybe you guys are seeing it a lot. I'm just not seeing it. So I'm very surprised it's actually number 1. And are you guys surprised by any other of the top 10 or top 50 monsters? Again, let me know in the comment section below. Very interesting. So let's go to spells now. Spells. Now, what's interesting about the spells is the number 2 spell, Enemy Controller. Keep in mind, Enemy Controller has been nerfed. So you can only run 2 of it. So its value lessened. You know, its playability has lessened because you cannot no longer play 3 in a duel. You can only play 2 now because you can only carry 2 in your deck. And in some cases, if you're running it with any other kind of deck that has any other kind of nerfed card as well, that's on a semi-limited list, you can only run it as a 1 of. So it's very surprising that a card like Enemy Controller is still a top 2 spell in the game and still a top 5 card overall in the game, as you guys can see here. It's in at number 5. If it was still ran as a 3 of, it would probably easily still be number 1 or 2 overall, and probably definitely be the number 1 spell used in the game. And this card has been out since day 1, since the beta drop back in 2016. Enemy Controller has been the number 1 card used ever because it's so powerful in a 3 Monster Zone 4,000 life point format. And even when they nerfed it, it is still, at this time, a top 5 card in the entire game and a top 2 spell in the entire game. Absolutely amazing. The Enemy Controller has basically just stood, basically just maintained its presence in the game of how powerful that card truly is. But anyway, so that's number 2. Number 1, Cosmic Cyclone, no surprise here. The best back row removal single 1-for-1 card in the game right now. Cosmic Cyclone, banishing instead of destroying is so much powerful than a lot of other things. And then Galaxy Cyclone, a lot of people told me it was going to be too slow, that it wasn't going to be this, wasn't going to be that. And I told them it's going to be a great card. It's going to be amazing. It's worth getting from the box. And here we are at least I'm proven correct on this card. It is top 3 spell in the game. Matter of fact, it is a top 10 card overall, sitting there at number 6. So Galaxy Cyclone is absolutely phenomenal, as you guys can see here, being able to basically get a 2-for-1 potentially by destroying a set card and then destroying a face-up card a next turn or a turn down the road. Very, very powerful. Such a good card. It may not be a quick play. If it was, it'd probably be busted, but it's still good enough, and of course it deserves its top 3 in my opinion, especially over some of these other cards. Now, number 4, Hatrunade, busted card. It's basically the go-to card if you're running Destiny Heroes. That, Chalice, and Mass Change, which of course all 3 of those are in the top 10 for spells. And Polymerization is there too, also to bring out your fusion monsters to kind of set up the plays in Destiny Heroes. So all 4 of those spells are being used in a Destiny Hero deck, including Cosmic Cyclone. So all 5 of those cards, you'll see a variety of them being played out in Destiny Heroes. So of course, since Destiny Heroes are one of the more popular decks right now in the game, I think they're actually the 3rd most popular, going by these statistics here. Yeah, they're the 3rd most played. It makes sense that the spells that they're using are also going to be very high up on the list. So that, makes sense to me. Absolutely. Like Mass Change, very broken card. Hatrunade, a very broken card. Unless you're running back row, that can help you with like Super Rush Headlong. Since you're running against all darks, you could pop that and be protected against at least, battle damage, but they can still attack over you, I guess. So there's that. You can also run like Mirror Wall. That's really like the only good cards I can think of in the back row right now to run that kind of get around Hatrunade. But anyway, so then you got Forbidden Chalice. Quick play. They're going to use that, especially if you want to, get around a monster's effect. You definitely want to pop Chalice on there. It's even good offensively too if you need a quick 400 boost. It's there for you. And then of course we got Mana for Hire for the bringing back special summoning, getting your Dompa plays off, getting your Beat plays off, getting your Seal plays off. Whatever kind of combo you're trying to do with that. You can even bring back your Dyna in your end phase, and then you can flip them in attack position. Boom. Then you got your Dyna back. So a lot of things there. You already know what Super Rush can do in the game. Polymerization we already talked about, and of course Destiny Draw to get that draw power. So very, very good. Even Fire King Island made it to the top 15, and look, we get a little bit of spellbook love here at 19 on spells, but 19 on spells really isn't that good because from what I can tell, outside of like the top, I'd say outside of and what's funny, Polymerization actually is on the list twice because of the 2 alternative artworks. Wow. Okay, now Konami, this triggers me a little bit. These should not be counted individually. These should be counted together. And if you count number 17, alternative art polymerization, with the other alternative art polymerization at 9, if you counted them being played as one card, which you should because they're both the same fucking card, they might actually be a little bit higher on the list. They might even maybe move up to 8 or 7. I'm not really sure. But the fact that a card that has 2 different artworks in the game right now is on the list as a top 20 for all spells is hilarious. Okay, Konami, what the hell? That is tripping me out right now. You need to definitely count those both as one card. Okay, what the hell? But anyway, so yeah, spellbooks get a little bit of love on the spell section at 19 though, but their monsters aren't even in the top 50. So like I said, spellbooks are just kind of low right now. Silver's Cry is at 25. Ancient Rules is at 24. Expect those to climb pretty drastically after the EX box drops. Mage Power is at 30. Just some cards that you may see here and there. Very, very interesting. So let's move on to the final category, which is traps. Now, traps, of course, number 1, Treasure Trap Hole. Like I said, we talked about in the beginning of the video, needs banned. I mean, let's be honest. The card is just too much. The restriction is not that bad. You can play around that restriction, especially if you just run it as its only trap. It's so good that people will even run 2 or 3 of it just so they draw into it early because it's literally a game changer. Clearing 2/3 of your opponent's monster zone just because is extremely deadly. It's a 1 for 2. I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's a 1 for 2. That's a +1 for you. That's powerful. That is extremely powerful. And if you're running with Endless Trap Hell, it's even a bigger plus than that. It's just absolutely disgusting. All right, so we got Wall of Disruption, of course. Also a very powerful card in the game. Paleozoic Canadia. Very good stall card, and it has return value. It could be brought back to the field by playing other traps. So it has really good effect. It lets you stall out, and it's really, really a popular card in the Amazonas deck, as well as Walla D and Treacherous. Treacherous is really just popular in any deck in the game. That's why it's number 1, because it could be teched into anything, and it'll be good. Number 4, Floodgate, another good card, much like Canadia, Walla D, and Treacherous. It can be used in the Amazonas deck, and of course, Amazonas' most busted card at all is Amazonas Onslaught. The only card that's making the deck meta right here is Onslaught. And even though that it's nerfed at 2, it's still a top 5 trap being used in the game, and that's completely obvious. It probably would be a top 1 or 2 card in the game if you could run it at 3, because it would probably just play out Floodgate, Canadian, Walla D just a bit more if you could run it at 3. But being ran at 2 and still being a top 5 is pretty insane. The fact that Trap Hole, most people are only playing 1 in their deck, and it's still being number 1, just tells you how busted the card is. So, insane. Number 6, we got Widespread Ruin. Very, very good for dealing with strong monsters or just getting monsters off the field quickly, especially if you don't want to take any battle damage or you want to protect the monster. Very powerful. Draining Mirror Force, another card, much like Galaxy Cyclone. And people told me that the card was too slow, the card wasn't going to work, the card wasn't going to be good. Guess what? It's a top 10 trap in the game, guys. So it is good because there's a lot of situations where you can just leave your board open, let them attack, clear their board, and then go in, especially if you're running Amazonas, for example, where you got Onslaught, where you can just let them blow up their own board, basically send everything back to their deck, pop Onslaught, put a monster in the field, and then when it's your next turn, you got another monster. You have a potential OTK right there. So, very powerful combo. It's also really good in the Bell Phoenix deck because a lot of the times that deck you're going to be pretty open until you get your combos out. So, very powerful card for that deck as well. And then, of course, Willpower to bring back your Amazonas from the grave. Mirror Wall. The reason why Mirror Wall is probably seeing a lot of play right now is because of Hades Ruinade. Because, like I said earlier in the video, Mirror Wall is very good as a good defensive card, much like Super Rush Headlong, to kind of play around those pesky Trunades. Because you can flip it. It's also good against UAs as well with Slugger. Just pop Mirror Wall. There you go. You got Draining Shield, Stall, Life Point Gain. Very, very popular. Penalty Box, of course, for the UA decks. And our first Vampire back row, Vampire Takeover. So, and then the rest of them just kind of fill out after that. And the funny thing is DNA Surgery is in the top 20. That's funny. That is very, very funny, actually. And Massamorph, even though you can only run 1 of it, it's still getting some love as a top 30 trap. Interesting. And here's what's really weird. Nobody's running any other traps, so there's really only 28 traps that are even being calculated right now. That is insane. That just tells you that the versatility of this game, it's just so low. It's just so small. The sample size are just too small because the fact that only 28 different traps are really being calculated or being ran in PvP right now tells you there's just not a lot of variety right now. The variety is lacking, and that's what I want to see change in the meta for Duel Links. I want to see more variety. I want to see several decks. I want to see a dozen different decks that are playable and competitive with each other. That's what I want to see. But I don't know if we'll ever get it. But yeah, like that. If that tells you anything, the limited amount of traps that are actually being played in PvP should tell you that, definitely. I didn't even check to see if we even got 50 spells. Yeah, we got 50 for those. Okay. And then, of course, we got 50 monsters. So, anyways, did anything surprise you with the spells, the traps, the monsters, the order they're in? Are you guys surprised by the top 10 cards overall in the game? Does any of these places on the list do you feel they're a little bit too high? Maybe you feel like they're a little bit too low? Let me know. Do you feel like some decks are being underutilized and that's why their lists are showing up this way? I don't know. Just let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I thought this would be a different kind of video, something different to talk about, something cool, a little analytical discussion type video. But anyways, So I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Be sure to comment below, like the video if you did, subscribe if you're new as always, become an Impact player today. Join us in the Discord in the description below as always. And next time, we're probably going to be doing the free-to-play Friday video, which I will probably be working on right after this. So be ready for that as well. But I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Peace.